Hello, it's Shala here for Scrap and Stamp Canada. If you have recently ordered from Scrap and Stamp, you may have been the lucky recipient of a bonus card pack for our virtual make and take. This video is to help inspire you in ways that you can use this bonus pack. If you have randomly come across this video and don't have one of these card packs, not to worry, you can play along with us and use items you already have in your stash. Let's get started. Let's take a closer look at the items that we received in today's virtual make and take package. As you can see, we have some ribbon, cardstock, and a card base. Start off with this black and white polka dot ribbon. Then we have a green piece of cardstock. This measures approximately 5.5 inches by 1.5 inches. A white cardstock panel measuring approximately 3.5 inches by 5.25 inches, and a card base measuring approximately 4.25 by 5.5 inches. I started off by tying this ribbon into a quick little bow, and I'll show you how I did that a little later on here. And my idea was actually to create a birthday card, and I wanted to create a present. So I went ahead and found some black cardstock that I already had in my stash, as I wanted to add another layer of color. I've cut that down to fit the card base, and you can see here that it measures up nicely. So that's again approximately 5.5 inches by 4 inches. And then I can layer this white card panel right over top, and that creates a really nice border to offset the green. Now what I want to do is create my present. So what I'm going to do is measure the width of this. Again, it's 1.5 inches, and I want to create a perfect square. So I'm going to trim this piece down to a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch square piece. Then what I did is I ran that piece through an embossing folder. I use this Cuttlebug polka dot one to match with the polka dots on the ribbon, but you can use any embossing folder that you have on hand. And then that quickly creates a nice little present for the front of our card. Now you can pull out your favorite adhesive. I'm just going to use this adhesive tape runner as it was close by, and just quickly apply some down and make sure that everything is going to adhere nicely to the front of my card base. I can then attach that black card panel that we created and layer this white one right over top, trying to get it as even on each side as I can. Again, I just use my tape runner to adhere this. You can definitely use liquid adhesive, whatever you have on hand. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I'm just using a stamp positioner here because sometimes I like to multi-stamp my sentiment to make sure that it is nice and clear. And I lay down my little present so that I have an idea of where I want the sentiment to be. The great thing about this card is it doesn't have to just be a birthday card. You can also change the colors up for Christmas, and I think that would be a fun element. So just a really simple happy birthday sentiment is what I'm going to stamp down. I'm using my favorite Versamark Claire Nocturne ink. It seems to stamp really nicely, and once I get this lined up, I can quickly stamp that sentiment down. Again, using a stamp platform like this allows me to ensure that my sentiment is stamped nice and clear. I'm going to quickly use the tape runner again to adhere this element. Again, if you prefer liquid adhesive, go ahead and do that. Adding some foam tape to the back of this might add another layer of dimension, which would be nice. So I like to ensure that I'm getting this nice and even. And then we can go ahead and deal with our bow. Now I'm going to show you how I tied this bow, just really quickly. It's just doing a really simple bow, going around and then pushing that loop through with my finger to ensure that that bow is nice and pretty, and then I just work it with my fingers back and forth to tighten it up until I get the right size of bow. Then if you have any extra overhanging, you can definitely trim the edge off. Again, I like to take my time with this process to make sure that the bow looks nice and neat and tidy. After you try this a couple times, you'll definitely get the hang of it, so not to worry if it's frustrating the first time round. It gets easier and easier each time you tie it. Look at that, a perfect bow. Now with the first bow that I created, I do need to trim off the ends a little bit. So I'm just grabbing my Sizzix sharp scissors and quickly doing a nice little trim on each end. Once I have that trimmed up, we can go ahead and adhere this bow down to our card. I like to use glossy accents for this because it dries nice and clear. You can use any liquid adhesive that you like that will dry clear. I've pulled out my reversible tweezers just because my fingers are a little bit bulky and I wanted to ensure I got it adhered down nice and straight. Again, I like to make sure I position the bow just a little bit so that it lays nice and flat, and I'll put an acrylic block over top to let it dry. And once that's done, we can lift off the acrylic block and we have our card. I hope you enjoyed our virtual Make and Take with Scrap and Stamp Canada today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like us, and you can keep up with all our crafty inspiration.